The steaks are off the table. The chopped lamb chops, we get rid of them. We get rid of the beef steaks. It's all going to be plant-based food from now on if we sign up to Glasgow's COP26, correct?
Well, look, Rowan, that's what the documents say. Let's be very clear. These are the draft agreements worked up by the IPCC, by the United Nations. This is not some wish list from Greenpeace, although perhaps I repeat myself, but these are the official documents here. They're the official documents that say they want to put a tax on red meat. They want to try and encourage or make people move to a plant-based diet. And I don't think people really realise when they hear net zero, that means they want to transition you to be a vegan. And what concerns me is the current plan from the Liberals on net zero leaves open this question about whether or not farmers would be made to reduce emissions, reduce the methane emissions from their livestock. That's 13% of our emissions in this country. And I'm not signing up to a plan that requires our farmers to spend more time worrying about what comes out of the front and back of their cattle than actually providing us the good food that we all enjoy.
James.
I mean, Matt, Australia produces some of the best, if not, frankly, the best beef in the world. What would this do to the Australian cattle industry if this was to go ahead? Because people think about, oh, well, it's net zero, so we're just going to get our power from solar and renewables, and that's all it's going to come down to. But really, doesn't this show how the entire Glasgow summit is really not just about where we get our electricity, but about re-engineering every aspect of our lives?
Exactly right, James, because carbon emissions comes from everything you do. Now, there is this naive view that it's just electricity. And we put a few solar panels up and job's done, we keep going on with life. But no, it comes from your food. Dams create emissions. It comes from your travel, of course. It comes from everything we make, including all the medical equipment that we've made to see us through this pandemic. All of these things create carbon emissions. And this conference, this Glasgow conference, is not about climate change. It is about political change. These people want to shut down all coal mines by 2030. They want to make it a right for refugees to claim climate as a legitimate reason for asylum, and they want to make us all vegans. That is the agenda. That's the political agenda that is on the table at Glasgow next week, and I think we should run a million miles from it.
Rita.
Now, Matt, you've accused the Prime Minister of gaslighting. You've said very plainly that this plan is an absolutely walking disaster. Is there going to be a deal between the Nats and the Libs? Are the coalition going to go into Glasgow with an agreement on net zero?
Well, there's that building behind me there at the moment, Rita. There's no white smoke coming out of the top of it yet. There's nothing's decided just yet. But what I do know, I can't speak for the Nationals party room, but what I do know is the Nationals won't sell the last cow for a handful of beans. We are fighting hard for the jobs and industries in our region. I've had lots of support from people back home for the fight we put up this week, and we'll continue to do that. There are a lot of people angry with us down here, Rita. A lot of people in Canberra are angry with the Nationals Party this week, and I've got a new test for myself. When I'm making people in Canberra angry, I'm doing my job. And boy, have I met that test this week. I'm going to go home with an A+.
Well, Matt, have a listen now to Boris Johnson, first of all. Have a listen here.
Green is good. Green is right. Green works. We have to listen to the scientists. They're very often right, you know. We need urgent government action, but we must mobilise the market.
Matt, I'm embarrassed to say that bloke used to be the editor of The Spectator, the magazine that I'm the editor of, and you have a brilliant cover story in This Week. I get that plug in there. And great, thanks for writing for The Spectator, Matt. But now have a listen. So, complete lunacy. I mean, this is the party of Margaret Thatcher, and here's this lunatic running it. But let's now have a listen to what he then said, and this is really important.
So we're making big bets on hydrogen, we're making bets on solar and hydro, and yes, of course, on nuclear as well, nuclear for our baseload. And we're making such massive progress that we've now pledged to switch entirely to green power generation by 2035.
And that is the key, is it not, Matt? That you cannot have renewables without a solid base load power, which is either coal or nuclear.
Well, Rowan, that first clip you showed, I think come up with a new moniker for Boris. He's really is Baghdad Boris there, isn't he? Because while he's saying that green works, right behind him, if you could put on the screen of a video of things going on in his own country, you got lines for petrol.
Yep.
You have factories closing. Dozens of electricity firms going out of business because of skyrocketing energy prices. And in the most, I love this bit. I absolutely love it. The UK is running short on carbon dioxide. They're running short on carbon dioxide because you make carbon dioxide from natural gas, and of course Vladimir Putin's not giving them any natural gas, or not much anymore. And they can't make the carbon dioxide that's necessary to disinfect meat, to refrigerate goods and transport food around the country. So Boris, while he's up there saying, you know, I'm Kermit the Frog and green works, on the other end, he goes back home and he's having to bail out a company called CF Fertilisers, which is the United Kingdom's only supplier of carbon dioxide. This is an absolute disaster, and you're right. We cannot have an electricity system that is dependent on the weather. I'm not being dramatic here. Our defence officials say that a risk of conflict with China is significant. That's why we are buying these nuclear submarines. And if that's the case, we don't want a country where China doesn't need to have a map of the country to know how to get to us. They just need a weather forecast. Because the time to attack us would be when it's cloudy and not much winds around. We'd be very vulnerable. And so we are getting these nuclear submarines. I welcome that. That's a good decision. But no country in the world has nuclear submarines without nuclear power. And if it's good enough to send the good men and women of our Australian Defence Forces under the ocean with a nuclear reactor, I reckon it's okay that we could build one around the country as well.
Absolutely. Matt Canavan, always fantastic to talk to you. I think you've just solved the riddle there, why the Bureau always get the weather wrong. It's because they're trying to trick the Chinese. Maybe that's what they're up to.
That's
Matt
true,
Canavan,
but didn't they hack the Bureau? Did the Chinese hack the Bureau of Meteorology the other year? They already know it all.
Thanks so much, Matt Canavan. Always great to chat to you.